Hello and welcome to Stochastic Agency. Today is August 7th and we're talking about form for RPGs. A form is a very generic word, and for me it's going to refer to everything about the game. The way in which it's played, how the game is presented, its ease of learning, its ease of use, its overall form. Now this game that we're going to talk about today focuses on superheroes, and it's called Spectaculars from Scratchpad Publishing. As of today, if I recall correctly, the game is still on sale for $20 at their website. This gets you the game along with the PDF. If you're interested in starting a game with superheroes, Spectaculars is a very easy game to get into. It's based on percentile dice, so we can easily understand the chance of success. It incorporates additional dice mechanic by using separate colored dice, a challenge die for making things harder, and an advantage die for making things easier. The convenient thing is that everything you need to play the game comes in this box, except for the pencils. Now with all forms, there's always good along with bad. The only thing that really detracted from play, and it wasn't a huge detraction, it's more or less a quibble for us, was that the game is designed and makes use of a character tray. This is a little plastic tray that comes with the box. There's a set of 4. It's intended for you to put the character sheet on and then lay the cards out on. We found often during play that depending on what was going on, we were either picking the cards up so we could see the backside or write something on the backside or the front side of the character sheet, or we were picking the character sheet up to try and see certain parts of the cards that were in the tray. So for us, the trays eventually went away permanently. They did go into the recycling bin, but everything else stayed. Now, just FYI, I own 2 copies of this game because duplicates are good sometimes, and I'll get into that when we start talking about the game. So with that out of the way, let's just talk about Spectaculars for a little bit. Now this is not going to be an in-depth review of the game Spectaculars. I just want to kind of go over it in general. So, what do I have to say? It's very easy to teach. It's percentile dice. If you can read percentile dice and compare a chance of success with the roll, you're doing good. The game does break the fourth wall a little bit in the way it sets up to play. You have opening scenes, interludes, and conflicts. 3 kind of scenes that you play through, but it's just a way to help divide out what's going on. The way in which heroes are constructed is relative to the type of issue you're going to be playing through, and I'll get into that in just one second. So first, let's talk about the core book. The core book overall is 60 pages. Very straightforward. The rules are very easy to learn. Here's a list of all the components that you're going to get. You see that this does come with cards that may or may not appeal to people. Dice, tokens, so on and so forth. But here's just a good overview of the chapters and how they're broken out, if you want to take a look at that. 2 types of main books. We have the rule book and the setting book. And then 2 things that kind of go into making a character. You have a hero progression character sheet, and then the actual character sheet will come out of the issue that you are going to be playing through. Now the game is set up with a little bit of a legacy element to it. 3 of the types of issues you can kind of start off in, if I recall correctly, and one of the issues is going to ask that you have played at least to the number 4 of a certain issue prior to starting it. If you're playing it as a one-shot, you could completely and entirely ignore that. The reason why the game is structured in that way is to kind of mimic the release structure. Remember that fourth wall thing I talked about, of how comic book issues come out? The other one is, as you play through the issues, you're going to slowly be filling in things in the settings book. And so each time you play a scenario or have an issue released, there are certain bits of information that you, the narrator, and the players will kind of get together and talk about. One issue from any of the scratch pads can easily be played through in one night. In fact, your longest night is probably going to be the first one, and that may be 3 hours, 4 hours if it takes a lot more getting used to. If you're an adept game player, you could probably get through an issue in about 2 hours, depending on how fast you want to go through it and what kind of role playing you want to do. So, the settings book. Now, each time you play an issue and start, you're going to be filling in information within this book. This is the blank copy. So, everything starts from this set of pages here, the basics. This is where you build or construct the idea of your Gotham, your megacity, your metropolis, whatever it might be, where everything begins for your superheroes. Districts, the time period, the types of neighborhoods, various different questions about it, how the media portrays superheroes, how often superheroes die in the line of duty, how authorities in power see superheroes, and how the general public sees superheroes. Then there are other various aspects about superhero games and superhero comics that you'll fill in as needed as you play through, such as a powerful artifact, a super science lab, the Netherrealm, the super prison, the crime syndicate, the Mystic Order, pariah experiments, and the lawless city. And then you can also get into some really advanced or unusual types of things that we see in comic books. The celebrity bigot, the media personality, the team mentor, the hateful authority. And then we have various different sections at the back to help us fill in minor characters and relevant information for that. Publications in history, important events, note that the series and issue, and then the events that they take place in, back issues that they may be noted in. Again, you can see that fourth wall being broken. The game does come with dice, so you don't need to buy any. Any standard set of percentiles would do if you just buy the PDFs, but you roll and you want to roll below. If things are more difficult, a challenge dice might get added, 1 to 2 or 3, depending on how challenging or complicated the situation could be, or if the players have some form of advantage naturally occurring, or they narrate themselves into an advantage, the same thing with the advantage dice. You'll note that the advantage dice do not have numbers. They merely use symbols. Identities are generated by using cards. Here we see the historian, the artist, the medical examiner, and the salvager. All of your skills are laid out on the card in basic percentile dice. For an example of a standard power, we can see that the description of the power is very light. Although we do have what appears to be an icon here for a token. So we have time tokens, which when a power is used, you would put a token on the power. When you go through the initiative, the token is removed, and then that power is usable again. It's a refresh token. Spectacular uses a set of cards for its initiative system. Each card represents a group of or individual within the initiative order. So let's take a look at an initiative. So here we have the blue cards, which are all the team roles that players would select for their character when they begin the issue. Each type of team role has an effect on, or can have an effect on, some state of play, whether that's the actual initiative order, your ability to deal more damage or be more accurate in combat, and other various different game effects. So here we have, in this initiative order, from left to right, the character who would be playing the booster would go first, then this group of minions would act, then the leader would act for the player characters, then the group of minions would act here, the striker, the tank, the minions, and then the complication. Notice there's no villain here. So this would be kind of considered a very minor conflict scene with no villain present. We have a villain card here. We could see that this is probably going to be a pretty easy, quick, straightforward fight. You'd gather up the cards, reshuffle, relay the initiative order, and as minions groups are removed, the initiative deck gets smaller and smaller. A complications card can introduce various different things in play. This could be as a result of something that's listed in an issue that you're playing through. This could be the result of anything that may be caused by a disadvantageous roll by the players. The complication could be that the villain shows up all of a sudden in the middle of your fight with the minions. We could think of this story as being told that the minions were there just to prevent or delay the heroes from either getting to or escaping from a certain location. Let's real quickly take a look at an issue, because this is where the game, I think, really shines. For this, we're going to take a look at Streetlight Knights. Streetlight Knights is a spectacular series themed around street-level heroes. So think Batman, Daredevil, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the character generation stuff, but let's talk real quickly about how the scenario breaks down. Each of the issue scratch pads are divided by this scenario page, which is how the break happens. Everything before this page is what you would need to fill out. Here is how you're going to set up the team of heroes, and you have a couple of different options there. Each group of scratch pads based around a theme comes with a particular type of themed hero for that scratch pad. Here we have the villain. He is called the Foil in this one. Here we have another villain called the Wrecking Ball. Here we have a minor villain, a superpowered crew. And now we have the scenario called Breaking the Bank. This is it. This is all the prep you need. This contains a lot of information condensed very well down into 2 pages. Now, I'm not going to go deeply into how all this works, but it's not to say that you will or should confuse this with a railroad. Yes, there are things that are specifically going to happen. This is true. It's conceit of playing this game, at least when you first initially start. Now, do you need to play through these? No. If you're an accomplished gamer and player, then just going through the setting book would be an easy way to set up your own megacity for where you're going to play. But looking at the sheets is going to give you a very good idea of how the game should be prepped for and the amount of information that you would need to prep. This game is intended to be played easily and quickly with very little startup cost. Now, I know that's not really an in-depth view of what the game of Spectaculars is like. I know that there are already several review videos for the game available, but I can only say, in my humble opinion, that the game Spectaculars, as a role-playing game, does overall have good form. It's easy to use. It's not crunchy in the mechanics side, it's crunchy in the imagination side, in the amount of creativity that would take to play some of these heroes. As you saw by a hero card, the superpowers that is, there's not a lot of information there. There's a general statement. So you're going to have to let us know what that power looks like. The game, I think, follows through on its intention to feel like a comic book, in the way that there are fourth wall breaking rewards, the types and themes that the scratch pads go through for the scenarios and issues, the types of themes and heroes that each scratch pad contains, along with those villains, the powers, and all of the game in its entirety, with the exception of the trays. They were a little buggy. But the game has good form. And if it's still on sale for $20, it's really hard to beat. So if you are just getting into role-playing and you like superhero games, or you like superheroes in general and want to try out a role-playing game, Spectaculars is a really good place to start. Right now it's cheap, self-contained, because the only thing you're going to need is a pencil. It's a good game, it's solid, and it's easy. And that's why I believe it has good form.